You're listening to Scott Sermain's Inside Movie Show, Breaking Legs, on All Media Radio.
Hello, good evening and welcome. I'm Scott Sermain and this is Breaking Legs. Tonight on the show we've got news, music, trivia, competitions. We're breaking legs with author and screenwriter Dougie Brimson, but first I fancy a little bit of nostalgia. That was, of course, the theme to The Professionals, which was a British crime action television drama series produced by Avengers Mark I Productions and London Weekend Television that aired on the ITV network from 1977 to 1983. In all, 57 episodes were produced, filmed between 1977 and 1981. It starred Martin Shaw, Lewis Collins and Gordon Jackson as agents of the fictional CI5. The Professionals was created by Brian Clemens, who had been one of the driving forces behind the Avengers. The show was to have been originally called The A Squad before it was decided to call it The Professionals. Clemens and Albert Fennell were executive producers, with business partner Laurie Johnson providing the theme tune. Sidney Hayes produced the first series in 1977 and Raymond Menmuir the remainder. CI5 stood for Criminal Intelligence 5, which is a fictional British law enforcement department instructed by the Home Secretary to use any means to deal with crime of a serious nature that go beyond the capacity of the police but are not tasks for the security service or military. The choice of name CI5 is possibly inspired by Criminal Investigation Department and MI5. The premise allowed the programme makers to involve a wide variety of villains including terrorists, hitmen, racist groups and espionage subjects, with plots sometimes relating to the Cold War. Led by the formidable George Cowley, played by Gordon Jackson, CI5 is known for using unconventional and sometimes illegal methods to beat criminals, or as Cowley puts it, fight fire with fire. The use of fictitious force in this context was somewhat less controversial than the portrayal of the real flying squad on The Sweeney. Cowley's two best agents are Ray Doyle, played by Martin Shaw, and William Bodie, played by Lewis Collins. Doyle was an ex-detective constable who has worked the seedier parts of London, while Bodie is an ex-paratrooper, mercenary and SAS sergeant. Of the two, Doyle is the softer, compassionate and more thoughtful character, while Bodie is ruthless and more willing to take on criminals on their own terms. That said, Doyle is more hot-headed and tended to rush in, while Bodie waits for the shooting to start. While polar opposites, Bodie and Doyle have a deep and enduring friendship and are almost inseparable. Although their loyalty to Cowley is beyond question, they have no qualms about disobeying orders if it meant getting the right result, either for the case or themselves. Initially, Anthony Andrews was contracted to play Bodie, but he and Shaw did not have the chemistry that Clemens was looking for. As Shaw was deemed to have more screen presence, Andrews was dropped, and Clemens hired Collins in his place. Shaw and Collins had played villains in an episode of The New Avengers named Obsession together, and reportedly had not got on with each other. Ironically, since this was the reason Collins was brought into the production, he and Shaw became friends off-screen, although they managed to keep up the on-screen chemistry and abrasiveness of Bodie and Doyle's relationship. The Collins character had signed off in the 1977 New Avengers episode with, "Maybe we should work together again, we're a good team." The first Professionals episode was later the same year. To begin with, Clemens intended to write 2 or 3 establishing episodes and then hand over to other writers, but their scripts were uneven and lacked the energy and pace needed. Clemens rewrote nearly 10 scripts for the first series episodes and took a direct hands-on approach to the filming. In later series, with the format established and the writers and directors familiar with the show, he took a more leisurely approach to the behind-the-scenes goings-on. The early years of the show feature varied plots, good scripts and ongoing character development of Bodie and Doyle, and to a lesser extent Cowley, but later series featured increasingly overused ideas and script devices, and both Collins and Shaw stated they felt the show was becoming stale. While episodes were broadcast until 1983, episodes were actually filmed between 1977 and 1981. While doing the research for this great programme, The Professionals, I come across the opening credits. And what I did a screenshot of the car, I think it's a Cortina or Granada, smashing through the window. Took a screenshot and I tweeted it out. And I said, anyone who can guess where this screenshot's from, I'll give them a shout on the next show. A couple of people did tweet me. The first one was Joanne Gallagher, and her Twitter handle is @PendlePie. Joanne is an actress from Hull, I believe. She tweeted and said, is it The Professionals? And of course it was. And the other person was @Windust. His name's Ray Windust, and he said it is, of course, The Professionals. Thanks for taking part and listening to the show. I really appreciate it. And that was this week's Nostalgia, The Professionals.
You're listening to Scott Sermain's Inside Movie Show, Breaking Legs, on All Media Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, and it's competition time. We'll go through last week's competition first. Last week's competition was, I played two songs by different artists, but they were the same song. The first song was by the Slickers, it's called Johnny Too Bad, and the second was by UB40, which is their version of Johnny Too Bad, which was a cover of the Slickers. And what I asked was, for the competition answer, was what films were those songs from? Well, the Slickers version of Johnny Too Bad, which was the original, was from the film The Harder They Come, starring Jimmy Cliff, which is a very good film, very old film now. And the second song was Johnny Too Bad by UB40, and that was from their actual film Labour of Love, which is a great film, really good film, always reminds me of my youth. And that was a competition answer. The films were The Harder They Come and Labour of Love, two great films. You should definitely get hold of them and watch them. The Harder They Come starred Jimmy Cliff, and Labour of Love was the film made by UB40 and starring UB40. This week's competition song will be Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Diana Ross. Now, what I want to know is the particular film and scene that this song's played in. And what I'll do, I'll give you a clue. I might give you a couple of clues. The first clue is Big Knickers. The second clue is there's a book just been released regarding this film. There are your clues. Big Knickers and a book that's just been released regarding this film. The song is Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Diana Ross. I want to know the film and I want to know the scene that this song is played at.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. On that you can depend and never worry. No wind, no wind, no rain, no rain. Oh, winter's cold can't stop me, babe. Oh, babe, baby, baby, if you're my gold. No wind, no wind, no rain, no rain can stop me, babe, if you're my gold. I know you must follow the sun lips that used to touch yours so tenderly. Just remember what I told you the day I set you free. No mountain high enough, no valley low enough, no river wide enough, keep me from you. Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough, keep me from you. Ain't no mountain high enough, nothing can keep me from you. Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough, ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough, keep me from you.
Hi, I'm Hayder Zaff and you're listening to Breaking Legs on All Media Radio with Scott Semaine.
Thank you, Hayder. Welcome back, everybody, and it's trivia time. This week's trivia is about the film Poltergeist. Poltergeist was made in 1982, it's directed by Tobe Hooper, produced by Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall. The screenplay was by Steven Spielberg, Michael Gray and Mark Victor, and it was starring Craig T. Nelson, Jo Beth Williams and Beatrice Straight. The film was about a family that were terrorised by a poltergeist and whose daughter were abducted by the poltergeist. And here's a few little bits of trivia from that film. The scene where the ghost stacked the chairs on the kitchen table was filmed in one take with no cuts. As the camera followed Diane Freeling to the kitchen sink, the crew members rushed to the table, put an already built pyramid of chairs on the table and then took away the individual chairs. After the first Poltergeist movie was made, actress Dominique Dunne, who played Dana Freeling, was murdered by her estranged boyfriend in 1982. Actor Julian Beck, who played Kane, died of stomach cancer in 1985 after filming the second film. And after the third, actress Heather O'Rourke, who played Carol Ann, died in 1988 from cardiopulmonary arrest brought by intestinal stenosis. This has been called the Poltergeist Curse or the Curse of Poltergeist. So if anything does happen to me, we're going to blame it on the Curse of Poltergeist, okay? Also, it's a little known fact that it was actually Steven Spielberg's hands that tore the flesh off the investigator's face in the bathroom. Also, near the beginning of the movie when Dana leaves the school, we see Carol Ann watching a channel with static. When her mother says it will ruin your eyes, she changes it to a channel that has a war movie on. If you watch for about 5 seconds, you'll hear the Wilhelm scream. I'll explain to you on another show what the Wilhelm scream is. And that was this week's trivia, Poltergeist.
I'm Jonathan Southcott, the notorious British film producer, and you're listening to the Breaking Leg Show on All Media Radio.
And here's some news since I recorded the last show. Now, I've actually seen Vendetta. It is such a great film. I went to the cast and crew screening of it in Soho, and what a great film. You're in for a real treat. It really is a great film, and Danny Dyer in it is brilliant. He really is. I think it's his best film to date. Now, the release date of Vendetta in the cinemas is 22nd of November, but there is a special screening on the 15th at the Genesis Cinema, and there'll be a question and answer session with Danny Dyer after. Staying with Danny Dyer, he's now going to be in EastEnders, and I think he's due to start filming in October, with his scenes to start in Christmas, I believe. And in more news, pre-production of Top Dog has begun. Top Dog is written by a guest tonight, Dougie Brimson. Staying with Dougie Brimson, he releases his new book, Wings of a Sparrow, very, very soon. In other news, Unscepted Isle is being turned into an audio book, and we're casting that at the moment as part of Laughing Raisin Productions. Also, working on the script, Reaper's Shadow, that's coming along very nicely. Just to let you know some upcoming guests, we've got director of Vendetta, Stephen Reynolds, and we've also got actress Charlie Bond. And in other news, Captain Phillips has been released in the cinema, and Gravity, I believe, is being released next week. And that was this week's news.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Paris Leonti, and you're listening to Breaking Legs on All Media Radio, where independent art finds a voice.
And remember, if you want to get involved in Breaking Legs, you can email me at scott@allmediaradio.com or tweet me at scottsamain, SCOTTSAMAIN, and hashtag it Breaking Legs. You can get involved, you can choose a nostalgia, or if you're in the industry in some way, in any way, and you want to get on the show, just give me a shout. It's scott@allmediaradio.com and on Twitter @scottsamain.
You're listening to Scott Sermain's Inside Movie Show, Breaking Legs, on All Media Radio.
Right, it's interview time, everybody, and tonight we're breaking legs with author and screenwriter Dougie Brimson, writer of books Everywhere We Go, The Crew, Top Dog, Wings of a Sparrow, and films Green Street, It's a Casual Life, and soon to be released Top Dog. So, thank you for joining us, Dougie.
You're welcome.
So, Dougie, the Breaking Legs interviews are about the industry, how it all works, like the mechanics of it. So, let's find out about being a screenwriter. How long have you been a writer?
I started writing in 1995, doing non-fiction books, basically, about the culture of football and stuff like that. And screenwriting came about by accident, like most things that happened to me, by accident. Around about 2005 I did It's a Casual Life, which was my first ever foray. I never trained to do it, it was just something that came about, like I say, by luck.
Okay. What did you do before becoming a writer?
I was in the Royal Air Force for 18 years. I loved every second of it. I left purely because I was offered a redundancy package. It was kind of too good to turn down. Left the Air Force in '94, bummed around for a year, blew my redundancy money. And when you put your cash, your cash card into an ATM, and all of a sudden it says no money left, then you think, oh Christ, I've got to do something. And I ended up working as an extra on TV and film, and it was doing that. Euro '96 was fast approaching, and we had an idea for a book, me and my brother, called Everywhere We Go, which was about the culture of football and hooliganism and that sort of stuff. And it was purely a case of right book, right time.
Okay, interesting. What was the first thing that you wrote?
Everywhere We Go.
Okay.
Yeah. It was an experience because we never knew any writers. I still don't really know any writers. And so how we went about the process was what worked for us. I mean, really, I walked into W.H. Smith's, picked up a book, wrote to the publisher, and that was it. I thought it worked for that, like that for everybody, and I've learned since it clearly doesn't. And we were just very fortunate. It just landed on the desk of a guy who got it.
Cool. Okay. What do you like most about your profession?
It changes every day, to be honest. I like the freedom, especially in these days. I mean, I'm big on self-publishing now. The freedom, meeting people. Like I say, you never know what's going to happen. No. What the next email is going to bring you. It's exciting.
Yeah. And what do you like least?
Ooh, that's a long list. I mean, the worst. It takes a massive amount of discipline to sit down and write, and I can only write stuff that I'm really passionate about, because I never trained to be a writer. I never particularly wanted to be a writer. That's the toughest thing, but even that pales into insignificance when compared to having to deal with the number of idiots I have to deal with almost on a daily basis. And I have a very low moron threshold. But these, you come across these people and you have to deal with them. And people who deal with me expect me to be a certain way because of the type of thing I write about. Yeah. And I'm not really like that. I don't think I'm like that anyway. And so that kind of disarms them. But then they think they can take advantage of you, and you can't do that with me. You can't do that with me. I won't let anybody do that with me. I used to, but not anymore.
Why not?
And that's the tough thing. I do meet a lot of idiots.
Okay. Right then, Dougie, this is Breaking Legs, and I ask all my guests to pick some songs, but the rules are they must be from TV and film. So what have you chosen for us today?
The first one, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, Nowhere to Run, because it's been used in so many movies over the years. It's a great. I'm a big soul fan, so it's one of the great all-time soul songs. But it's also been used in two of my favourite movies, which is Good Morning Vietnam and the ultimate gang movie, which is The Warriors.
Yeah, cool. Good choice. Everyone enjoy. Welcome back everyone. We are breaking legs tonight with Dougie Brimson, author and screenwriter, and that was Martha and the Vandellas, Nowhere to Run, from particular films that Dougie likes, Good Morning Vietnam and The Warriors. So, back to the interview, Dougie. What are the differences for you between writing a book and writing a film?
They are totally different. There is no real comparison. I mean, each film, the thing about film, and we're talking primarily about film.
Yeah.
Obviously. Film is faster, obviously, and I write very quickly. I can churn out a decent draft in about 3 weeks if I'm really going at it. It's much more fun because I write dialogue based. I know, people listen to me and I think, oh, you're a bit thick because I'm always stumbling over what I'm saying. But I like dialogue. I like strong dialogue.
Yeah.
The big problem I have with film sometimes is it's a collaboration.
Right. Okay.
And so once I've done my bit, it becomes open to everybody else. And I developed a thick skin as a writer very early on because you got, but to be a screenwriter, that's the big difference for me. The fact that you have to be receptive to criticism, input, and whatever. I mean, as I always say to someone, I might as well write scripts in pencil because that's what they are. I'm forever going to be rubbing them out, and that's the primary difference in the process, as far as I'm concerned, the fact that it isn't yours. You know, you can create something, but as soon as you've given it to somebody else, it's theirs. It's open for everybody because it's a collaborative process, and that will carry on right till, you know, when they're in front of the camera.
Okay.
So, but that, in other ways, that makes it more exciting because as long as you understand that, and it took me a long time to understand it, believe me, it's a learning process all the time. You're always learning. And working with Martin Kemp on Top Dog has been a revelation for me because he's taught me so much.
Okay.
In terms of what you need on paper and the differences between that and what you're going to see on screen, and about giving the actor space to actually act as opposed to just read out the words you're going to give it. And when you start thinking about that sort of stuff, it makes you approach it completely differently. And you just take that on to the next one and the next one and the next one. So the next one becomes easier to write because you actually, you know, you think you're visualising a movie in your head, but you're not. You're visualising what you're putting on the page.
Right.
And it's a massive difference. A massive difference. And once you start to realise that, you're thinking, right, what is it going to look like? And it's that old adage, less is more.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's absolutely true. But as long as you give the actors that space to act, and that's the thing that I hadn't really ever thought about before. So, you know.
Okay, interesting. How do you get approached to write a screenplay? Do people send you books to convert, or do they send you short stories, or do you only write screenplays for your own books?
That's two questions, really. So,
It is, yes.
Yeah, what I write, the stuff I write tends to come out of meetings, really.
Okay.
So, for example, Top Dog, which we're doing now, came out of a meeting I had with Leo Gregory about another project, and we began talking about our experiences on Green Street and how we would want to do, if we did another hooligan movie, how each of us was saying, let's do the definitive. We're going to do the definitive one, the ultimate hooligan movie. And we just got chatting, and Top Dog was born, and it just snowballed. It just went like a rocket, largely thanks to Leo. The other way it works, and it's a very old process, is people send me stuff. This is how it works, right?
Okay.
Someone will send me something, and they'll say, this is a brilliant idea for a movie. Will you write it and share the profits? Now, what they're actually saying to me is, will you spend 3 months working for nothing and then help me raise the money to probably get it into production, and then we'll share the profits? And it seems to be something, people don't seem to have a problem asking writers to give up a quarter of a year to work for absolutely no money. And I don't understand that, because without writers there isn't an industry.
True.
At all. I mean, if some guy's not sitting at a laptop coming up with an idea and a script, you haven't got anything. There's a great episode of The Simpsons where the writers went on strike, and there was an episode of Itchy and Scratchy on the thing, and they just stood there and they both look at the camera and shrug their shoulders. And that, to me, encapsulates everything about the importance of writers. And yet, I get it at least once a week, someone will approach me about writing something for them for absolutely no money. And often it's because they generally do not understand how it all works. And as I say to them, would you work for 3 months for no money on an idea that might never even see the inside of a DVD case, let alone the inside of a cinema? And if you're a writer and you've written a book, why not write a script as well? Because that's what I did, you know, and it worked for me. And if I could do it, anybody can do it, and that's the bottom line. But to return to the question, I tend not to write ideas based on somebody else's idea, or saying that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment. But they gave me a one-line pitch and said, this is what we want to do, can you do something with it? Pretty much, and I have, and I'm going to co-write this with somebody else. And it's really exciting, but I like to be in control of what I'm churning out, up to a point. And one of the problems with co-writing is you're not, because you've always got to run something by somebody else. And I'm finding that quite difficult.
Okay, that's the sort of a question that's sprung out there. Then I'm going to ask you that. How does that work then when you co-write? How does that exactly work? Do you sit there together and do it, or do you sit in your respective offices?
How it's working is I write everything, and then I send it to my co-writer, who makes notes, and they're sent back to me, and then I'll say, I don't like that, I don't like this, do that, change that, whatever. But they're just throwing ideas at me. I mean, because they've got a full-time job, the person I'm working with, and I'm a full-time writer, so I can sit there and cane this for 18 hours a day if that's what I want to do. So it makes sense for me to do all the hard work. And I've just written Top Dog, and I've just written another script, so I know I'm in the zone, if you like. And I can't wait for them. We haven't got time on this project to wait for them. But what they are doing for me is they're doing all my research. If I need stuff, they're working on character developments. If I need those, they're coming up with brilliant ideas for bits that I can throw into stuff. So in that sense, it's working really well for me. I don't know if I'd do it again, and I don't know if I could sit down with somebody at a desk and do it, because I write. The process of writing for me is, everybody does it differently. For me, I like noise. It's got to be noisy. Okay. So and it's got to be music. I mean, all these people who say, I need dead calm, it's got to be quiet. No, I can't be doing like that. So I will, when I start on a new project, find the music to suit that project. And so that I've discovered on YouTube these hour and a half long deep house mixes and stuff like that. So I've got a playlist of those. I just put my headphones on, full volume, and that's me. And I just have them on all day. And before I know it, it's 8 hours gone and I've got 40 pages or whatever. And it works for me. But the beauty of doing that, and because you're listening to the same music over and over again, is that it becomes almost like hypnosis. So if something happens, like I need a cup of tea or someone comes to the door or the phone rings, I can just put it on pause and I step out of it straight away. And then I can step straight back into it and switch it on. The problem with doing it like that, and I wrote a novel called Billy's Log, that was the first book I ever did using this kind of process, to the Stereophonics' first album. And when a tune comes on the radio, I almost go into type mode. It's bizarre. And I can't listen to it again. I've never listened to that album since. But it's a process that works for me. I can't go, people say, I go and sit in Starbucks all day. I go to Starbucks all day and just stare at people because I just love watching people, because that's, it's real life. Yeah. So to go back to the bit of collaboration, I mean, it's nice because the person I'm writing with, I know him really well. I've known him for a long time, so it's working, and I've always wanted to work with him anyway. But it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Cool, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. If you do get sent stories or books by other people to convert and you like it, what happens next?
I don't read it.
You don't read it?
No.
Okay.
Because for the simple reason that I don't want to be accused of plagiarism.
Of course.
I don't, and I send it back to them. I'm always on the internet. The internet's like, if I get a ping for an email, I usually just, what's that? And I'll reply pretty quickly and say, look, don't send me stuff. And I blogged about this a few months ago and said, do not send me stuff because it will not get read, because I've got no interest in it. If you want to write it, I'll help you with the process of writing it, and I'll tell you what to do with it even. But I'm not going to sit here and hold your hand. And if you write something, I'm certainly not going to read it, because there's also the chance as well that what I'm reading is much better than anything I could churn out. Now I don't need to be depressed. I get depressed enough as it is. So I just don't bother, and I let everybody know I'm not going to read anything you send me, because I've got enough ideas of my own. And there's only one me, unfortunately, and there's only so much time I've got.
Yeah.
And if it comes to me from somebody I know and trust within the industry, then I'll understand it's got a chance. And I'll look at it and maybe consider it and maybe do it. And that's happened on the thing we're working with. I mean, Jonathan Softcott, he's like, you know what he's like, he's a legend. He's becoming a legend in this industry. And I'm so lucky to have stumbled across him on Top Dog. And that's the story in itself, how that happened. But when he comes to you and says, I want you to take a look at this, would you be interested in doing this? You do it.
Yeah,
you at least have a look at it, out of courtesy. I turned one idea down he sent me. But this one is, I really like it. We're really doing it. So, you take it.
Okay. I was going to say, if you don't like it, what happens next? But obviously, you send it back to them. You don't read it.
There's another thing as well about I tend not to read when I'm writing, because I did it years ago, and I ended up writing something which was in a similar style to what I was reading, because I read fast and I write fast, and I don't want to do that. I know it's my project, and I don't want anyone to say, "Oh, there's shades of this or there's shades of that in that." You know, it's I've got a style apparently, and I want to keep it kind of undiluted because it seems, touch wood, to be working.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you get funding to write? How does that side of it work?
Oh, my aching sides. If it's a book, I self-fund it.
Okay.
Because I self-publish now anyway. All my books were traditionally published, and now I've gone the ebook route. And ebooks are phenomenal. They work brilliantly for me for all kinds of reasons. Primarily to do with the fact I can target my audience directly, something I could never do before, and it works. And I've got the choice about what I write and when I write it, and how quick I write it. And I work with some brilliant people. I'm very, very lucky on the publishing side of things. With a movie, it kind of goes back to what I said before. Someone wants me to commit to a project that they've brought to me, then I want to see some commitment from them. A commitment from them means money in my pocket. Because if they're not prepared to put money into writing a script, I've got no faith in that they're ever going to raise the money to get it made as a movie. And they won't work for nothing, so why should I? You know, as I said before, I'm not the best writer in the world, I'm not the most in-demand writer in the world, but if someone brings a project to me, the least they can do is pay me to do it for them.
Yeah. Because
if you want someone to paint your house, you pay someone to paint your house. I did go down the Creative England route once, but my experience with them wasn't great at all. There's only so many hoops I was prepared to jump through, and I'm not a fan of that process. I'd never go down it again.
Would you mind explaining what that is, please, Dougie?
Creative England is it's a film development fund that's basically funded by the lottery.
Right, okay.
And they put lottery money into the development of movies and the development of scripts. Then you've got the development to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And it might get me into trouble for saying this, but it is a jobs for the boys.
Right, okay.
Thing. And as I said, my experience with them wasn't great.
Okay.
And I'd never repeat it.
No, you can only talk from your own experience. So, okay, Dougie. So, talk us through a normal day's work.
My normal day, like I say, there's never a normal day's work. If I'm writing, depending on what I'm writing, I get up about 5 or 6 every day because being old, I don't need much sleep. And then I'll just get up. This is my process every morning: cup of tea, emails, avoid work, watch TV, avoid work as long as possible, and then actually decide I have to work. And then I'll work until I've just about had enough. If I'm in the mood, then I'll work. I think the longest I worked at a stretch was about 36 hours, flat out. But that was, I don't know if you remember, there used to be these tablets called Pro Plus. Do you remember? Yeah. Yeah, well, I was chucking them in like it was going out of fashion. And I did that, I did about 10 days. When I wrote, actually it was Top Dog, I wrote the last half of Top Dog, the novel, in 10 days. Because I was late for a deadline, but also because I was so into it. And I was popping Pro Plus and Red Bulls and all sorts of whatever the equivalent was back then. But I was getting up in the morning and I was doing about 2 or 3 hours sleep, and I had all the words there, but they were in the wrong order. And I'd have to basically rewrite, just jig everything about. It was like a kind of word dyslexia almost. But it was a great experience to do it when you're literally at a computer and it's just what's coming out on screen is as much a surprise to you as it is to anybody else. But when it's just working, like you're kind of in the zone. I love that experience, and you get it every so often with certain scenes. I'll be sitting there at night, just right. I've got to do this scene now, and I want to do it now, and it's like 4 o'clock in the morning before you finish. But it works because when you're, it's a book and a film are the same. They all start with the writer, and if the writer is buzzing about what he's putting on a screen or putting on a page, that's going to come across. If it's a drudge, that's going to come across as well. And so, you know, while you're in the mood, you've got to do it.
Okay, right, it's time for another song, Dougie. So what is your next song, please?
Right, this is another soul tune, a bit of Al Green, who is one of my all-time favourites, obviously, and it is How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? And the reason I picked this is a few years ago there was a series called Ally McBeal. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it was a scene where she's had a broken heart and she's lying on her bed like birds do, and the world's come to an end and blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, Al Green just walks into her bedroom and started singing this song. And the three, I think it was 2 or 3 girls who she worked with, were his backing singers. And it was the greatest use of music in a TV show I've ever seen before or since. And I've always remembered it, and so that's why I picked that.
Okay, everyone.
Think of younger days when I lived for my life was everything a man could want to do. I could never see tomorrow. I was never told about the sorrow, and how can you mend a broken heart? How can you stop the rain from falling down? Tell me, how can you stop the sun from shining? What makes the world go round? And how can you mend this broken man? How can a loser ever win? Somebody please help me mend my broken heart and let me live again. La 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 la. I can still feel the breeze that rustles through the trees and misty memories of days gone by. But we could never see tomorrow. Would you believe that no one ever told us about the sorrow? So how can we mend a broken heart? And mine is, how can you stop the rain from falling down? Stop us, that old sun from shining. What makes the world go round. And sometimes I have to say, la 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 la, yeah. La 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 la. Tell me, help me mend my broken heart. I just wanna live again, baby. How can you mend this broken man? Yeah. Somebody tell me, how can a loser ever win? I'm gonna say, baby, help me mend this old broken heart. I believe I feel like I feel like I wanna live again. How can you mend this broken heart? Somebody please tell me, how can you stop the rain from falling down? Although my clothes are all wet, tell me, how can you mend mine? Please help me mend my broken heart. I believe I got a feeling that I want to live and live. La 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 la.
Welcome back, everyone. We're breaking legs with author and screenwriter Dougie Brimson, and that was Al Green and the song "How Can You Mend a Broken Heart" from a scene in Ally McBeal. So, Dougie, how do you get the characters if it is a new screenplay? Do you cast them in your head first, hoping they will be in the film?
Characters are interesting. How it works with me is once I've got the outline for the script in my head, I need four things, right, for every character. I need a name, I need a voice, I need a face, and I kind of need some mannerisms, something about them. And so often I'll base them on real people I know. And the reason I do, or in the public eye, and the reason I do that is because if I'm stuck, I can either ring them up, or YouTube them, or Google them, or whatever. And once I hear their voice and see them moving around, I kind of know what they do. Right. And so in Top Dog, for example, the lead character in that, Billy Evans, was originally based on Robbie Williams, because I wanted him to have that bulky look.
Yeah.
And so once I've got that in my head, then I'll whack through a first draft of the script. And as I'm going through the script, the characters will kind of evolve in my head. Yeah. And so by the time I get to the end of the script, I know quite a lot about them. I mean, I'm not one for doing these massive 2-page backstories about, he went to X school and did this, and that's rubbish. And so by the time I get to start the first draft proper, I kind of know each character. And there's usually only 3 or 4 I really need to know. In terms of what's happened, the problem is then, what you've got is when you do cast them, they're nothing like what's in your head. And one of the problems I've had on Top Dog is I wrote the novel with Robbie Williams in mind originally, but he kind of morphed into a kind of mate of mine. And then all of a sudden there's Leo Gregory who's in, and it's completely different. Yeah. Because all his mannerisms are different, the way he talks, things that are said to him are completely different. And I found that really odd, writing the script, quite difficult. But now in my head, he is Billy, and so it's when we hopefully do the sequel, or there is a sequel to Top Dog the book anyway, but it'll be written with Leo in mind. And it's very odd. Casting's an oddity. I mean, obviously in your head you have conversations about dream casts and whatever, but it never tends to quite work like that.
Okay. So you finished writing a screenplay. How does the distribution side work? Do you send it to agents or producers or directors?
If it's a script, there will always be a producer in place already.
Right. Okay.
Because that side of the business is an alien being to me. I have no concept about where you take it to, how you raise the money, and in my very limited experience, it brings me back to my idiot and moron discussion. And I don't want to be dealing with people like that. You know, I because I'm not a people person, if you want. But I can't get involved in that side of things. I mean, I've got, I still judge myself. I don't call myself an author because it's a bit too grand. I don't call myself a screenwriter because that's a bit too grand for me. I'm just a bloke who writes stuff. Yeah. And so if I finished a script, I've always got another book to write. So I just get on and do that. I don't want to waste 6 months on trying to chase money for something that may never happen. I mean, I've got 4 or 5 scripts out there with various producers who are trying to raise money, and there's people on board all of these projects that the one thing missing is the money. Right. And I haven't got the time or the inclination to chase that, and I certainly haven't got the patience to grovel down to somebody and say, "Oh, I need your money." That's not me. Let other people do that.
Okay. What's your favourite film that you've written, or favourite book?
My favourite film is the next one. Let's try answering it as well, shall I? My favourite film is, I've only done 2. Top Dog's probably will be the third. But of all of them so far, It's a Casual Life, I think, was the best one. That was my first one. And even today, if you're into hooligan movies, that's still, most people who've seen it say that's still the best of all of them. It's only 15 minutes long, I think, and it's about a fight, but it was brilliantly directed by John Baird, who's just done Filth,
yeah, that's right, yeah.
And it was his first real movie, and he funded it all out of his own pocket. Cool. And it still stands up. Richard Driscoll, who was the vicar in EastEnders, stars in it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah, a long time ago. As soon as you said that, because I'm sure I've seen it. But no, it is really good. That is really good.
It's a great movie. It's on you.
That's what I saw on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah. There's a link to it off my website. But I love it because it's it's a fight scene. It's a monologue, and I really love it. But we're Top Dog. That's really my benchmark for Top Dog, certainly in terms of the fight scenes, because it was so well done. And Martin's, he's going to knock it into the park, so
good.
We're laughing.
Brilliant. Okay.
My favourite book is a novel I wrote called Billy's Log, because it's about me. It's a comedy it's Bridget Jones' Diary for lads, really, but there's a lot of me in there. And it still makes me laugh now. And I think it's still my biggest seller. So I want to do the sequel for that. But bloody films keep getting in the way.
Okay. Is there any book that you wish you hadn't written, or maybe wish to burn or delete?
Do you know how hard it is to write a book?
Well, I'm trying myself, so yes.
Right. So do you think I would write a book and wish I hadn't done it? No. Not a chance. They're all kind of. I'm very lucky in that I write what I want to write. I'm not, early on in my career it was all non-fiction books and stuff like that. But once I got into fiction, and certainly now I'm self-publishing, I can write what I want when I want it. And I recently wrote a book called The Art of Fart, which is about farting. It's just. But I wrote it because, in part, I was working on various scripts at the time. And one of them was quite heavy, and it was my escape. I'd kind of, every so often I'd need a break, so I'd spend 20 minutes writing anecdotes about blowing off and passing, and then I'd go on Google and research. And I tell you what, I've never laughed so much as I did writing that book. And by the time I'd finished his script, I had about 15,000 words done. And and I spoke to this publisher, my e-publisher, and he said, look, just finish it off and we'll bung it out. And so I finished it off. I'm just roared with laughter all the way through. And so, but I get ridiculed a lot. Oh, you're the bloke who wrote a book about fighting. Well, yeah, so what? I also wrote The Crew, which has been #1 for 2 years. No one ever talks about that. The biggest selling, the most downloaded sports book of 2012. No one ever talks about that. They just focus on the fact, you wrote a book about fighting, so you're not a proper writer. Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. So I write what I write when I write, and I'm so lucky to be able to do that. So, but I've started books that I've not finished, purely because I get to a point where I don't think they're going to work. And why bother finishing it? I mean,
Okay. How hard do you push yourself?
Not hard enough. I mean, I am seriously idle for 90% of the time. I'll avoid work at every opportunity, using every means at my disposal to avoid work. Yeah, sometimes you get to a point, where you've just got to do it.
Yeah.
And it is the realisation where, well, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And if it's not going to, and if someone's paying you already, then there's a great motivation. With books, it's different because I self-fund them, I publish them when I want, so I can kind of take my time. With movies, it's different because I know they're already talking about, well, we're going to be filming here. We're going to, when someone tells you, like they just have about half an hour ago, right, we're going to be filming at the end of January on a script that we only began talking about 2 weeks ago. I've got to go some. And so that's a big motivation, but that's okay because it's a great idea and it'd be good fun. But I don't push me. I was never, I never wanted to be a writer. I never set out. I'm not one of these people who, I don't want to write a great American novel or the great British novel or any great novel for that matter. I just write books because, I think people would be interested to read them, and that's how I earn my living. Rightly or wrongly. So.
Okay. When are you completely satisfied with your work?
This is a good question. Again, there's a big difference between books and films now. With a book, you're never satisfied. There's always something in there that you wish you'd changed, that you wish was different, that you wish you'd tweaked a bit more. The beauty of ebooks is that I can do that now. I can edit a manuscript and it'd be changed that day. And that's a phenomenal thing for me. Mm-hmm. So if someone writes to me and they'll say, oh, you got this wrong, or do you know your characters do this, or do you know that, you can, Christ, it wasn't edited very well, and lots of people read it, and it often happens though. 5 or 6, with Wings of a Sparrow, which I bought out in December, 5 or 6 people read that book before it was published, and after about a month someone said to me, mailed me and said, you do realise that you named the pub as closed, yet they're drinking in it like 2 chapters later, and nobody had ever noticed it. Oh. So I had to go in and change it over. Yeah. And it's a very odd thing, but you can do that now. They write to me about other books where you just go, oh my God, in the old days. With a film, it's different because it's not up to me to be satisfied. As soon as I finished it, as I said to you before, the second I hand it to a director, it's his film, it's his script. So I have to satisfy him, and he has the ultimate say in everything that's going to end up in screen. I might not like it, and I might argue against it, but ultimately, as I said before, I might as well write them in pencil, and that process will go up until it's in front of the screen. I mean, there's a particular scene in Top Dog, which I'd written, and Martin said, right, basically I want you to overwrite this thing because I don't know who's going to act that part. I don't know if they're good enough to act that part, and I don't want to give them the leeway of having to kind of ad-lib it. I need them to, if I know they're good enough, then we can always drop down. It's easy to take stuff out, it's not so easy to put it in, especially not when you're actually sat there filming it, and it's quite a major scene in the movie. So, which is fine. And that's, as I said to you before, working with Martin has taught me so much in terms of how you actually structure a script and what you actually need to put into it, because it becomes more not just about the story, it becomes more about the process, as everything else. And yeah, it's been great. So, you know, like I say, it's once he's satisfied, then great, and I'm happy.
Okay, right, Dougie, it's time for another song. So what's your next song, please?
It is, well, I know it as the theme from The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Which is the second greatest TV series of all time. And it's just, you just need to hear the first beat of that tune to know exactly what it is.
Cool. Everyone enjoy Alabama 3, Woke Up This Morning.
Gonna take you down, deep down to the front line. You woke up this morning, got yourself a gun. Your mama always said you'd be the chosen one. She said you're 1 in a million, you got to burn the shine. You were born under a bad sign with a blue moon in your eye. And you woke up this morning, all that love had gone. Your papa never told you about right and wrong. But you're looking good, baby. I believe that you're feeling fine. Shame about it, born under a bad sign with a blue moon in your eyes. So sing it now. Woke up this morning, got a blue moon. So sad, goddamn shame about it. Woke up this morning, got a blue moon in your eyes. Listen, you woke up this morning, the world turned upside down. Lord, of things ain't been the same since the blues walked in our town. But you 1 in a million, 'cause you got that shotgun shine. Shame about it, born under a bad sign with a blue moon in your eyes. Woke up this morning, you got a blue moon in your eyes. So sad, goddamn shame about it. Woke up this morning, got a blue moon in your eyes. Yeah, I know it. You just can't help yourself, yeah.
When you woke up this morning, everything was gone by 10:30. You had me doing ding-dong, winging like I fell from your head down to your toes. Like some boys trying to tell you there's something you should know. Last night you were flying, but today is so low. When a time like these makes you wonder if you'll ever know the meaning of things as they appear to the others. Wives, husbands, mothers, fathers, sisters, their brothers. Don't you wish you didn't function? Don't you wish you didn't think beyond the next paycheck and the next little drink where you do? So make up your mind to go on. When you woke up this morning, everything you had was gone.
Woke up this morning, woke up this morning, woke up this morning. You wanna be the chosen one. Yeah, you know it. You just can't help yourself, yeah. Woke up this morning, woke up this morning, woke up this morning. Got yourself a gun, got yourself a gun, got yourself a gun.
Welcome back, everybody. That was a theme from The Sopranos, Alabama 3, Woke Up This Morning. We're breaking legs with author and screenwriter Dougie Brimson. Welcome back, Dougie. Have you any advice for any budding screenwriters or authors out there?
Yes. First bit of advice I get, I tell to everybody, who asked me about what it's like to be a writer. If you can't take criticism, then don't do it. Because if you know, this weekend we've had all this thing that, you know, Twitter silence and all that rubbish. If you think getting trolled on Twitter is bad, then you sit there and you read the first review of your new book. And if it's bad, let me tell you, you're looking for a rope and a beam to swing yourself off. And you get it constant. It's, you know, you always, people who say, authors who say, oh, I never read my reviews, they are lying. God. Absolutely lying. They read everything and they store them away. And the only ones you remember are the bad ones. And so, if you can't handle that, you know, I mean, I had to, with Top Dog, I wrote the first draft of the script, and then I wrote a second draft of the script, which is still in essence the first draft. And I thought, this is blinding. So I sent it off, and this was before Martin was on. I sent it off to Jonathan Southcott, who's a producer, Southcott. And I don't like this, you need to change that. And I said, what the bleeding hell? How dare he criticise my script? So I sulked for a couple of days, and I said, and then it got to Martin on board. And it's a process. By the time it got to Martin, I'd written the script that's based on the novel I wrote 4 times. I'd rewritten my script 4 times. Then it gets to Martin, and I sit down with Martin, 3 hours tearing every single page apart. And it's soul destroying. Absolutely soul destroying. Because he never turns around and says, this is brilliant. It's all right, that don't work. Now you've got to get rid of that. Oh, I don't like that. Now you need to do this. Blah, blah, blah. And it's just, I'm sat there with my red pen and I'm running out of paper. And but you realise quite quick, it's a process. It's an evolutionary process. And then the next time you meet him, it's, you know, 2 hours. Then it's 1 hour. And then you get to the point where the other day I went over to his house. Right, I want to change this and I changed that. And I said, hang on, you could have done this. You know, you got a computer sat there, you could have done that. And so, but then it's like, right, now we're ready to go. And that moment, when you realise we're there, he has got me to that point. It was a fantastic moment. It's one I'll never forget, you know. And, but oh man, criticism is a killer. I can tell you, you know, if someone slags my books off, I get it all the time, you know, if someone slags your books off, oh, your books are rubbish. Well, write a better book then. Yeah. Simple as that. Green Street was rubbish. Yeah, I know. You don't have to tell me it was rubbish, and this is why it was rubbish. Oh, right, okay. And so, you know, that's fine. But if you can't take that, and it took me a long time, believe me, if you can't take that, don't do it. Because you're going to get it, and you're going to get it constant, you know, and it's how you handle it. I mean, the troll thing, I'm big on trolls. I love my trolls, I tell you, because what they give me, they're my vent, all right? I mean, I don't get all abusive and stuff like that. I just play them at the game that they're playing. And all this stuff, you know, Twitter silence and all that, you know, if someone's trolling you and hurling abuse you, just ignore them or block them. Don't try and reason with them, because they're, you know, why anyone would want to reason with somebody who is hurling abuse at them anonymously completely escapes me. And I get it all the time. That's another thing that's annoying me about this thing, is it seems to be, oh, it's women against men. That's how it turned out. I get more trolls from women more of my trolls are women than they are blokes. I get it constantly. Oh, I get called everything from a bloody rapist to a racist to a condoning child abuse. I've had all sorts over the last 10 days. But I just laugh it off, you know, just play as a game. I just think it's hilarious. Anyone who takes Twitter seriously has got to have something wrong with them, really.
Okay, what makes you different from other screenwriters out there?
I'm not sure I am. I don't know any other screenwriters. I don't really know any other writers at all. I don't mix in those sort of circles. And to be honest, I kind of spend my life wondering how I'm getting away with it. And so if that makes me different, then so be it. But whatever I'm doing seems to be working for me, and that's all I'm really bothered about.
Okay. So what criticism or praise have you had from other writers?
Oh, blimey, where do I start with that? I was once... Two things that are... One, I'm debating which one to put on my gravestone, actually. Someone in one of the broadsheets once called me the Yob Laureate. which I thought was great. And someone else called me the Hooligans Pornographer in Chief, which I thought was even better.
Yeah, I like that one, yeah.
I do like that. I don't know. I get a lot of criticism because of my approach to publishing, not so much movies. I don't write to further the cause of literature. I don't want to write, Lord of the Rings or whatever. I write to make money because that's how I earn my living. And I'm influenced not by what other writers think of me, what my readers think of me, and what they tell me. And one of the beauties of self-publishing is that we can interact. I mean, anyone can speak to me on Twitter, via Facebook. My email address is on my website. It's always me that answers. I haven't got a room full of monkeys who are doing it. It is me, and I like that because I know I'm writing not what sells, but what people want to read. Because I don't really see the point in doing otherwise. It's always been one of my criticisms of the British movie industry. Is you're making movies that you think people should be seeing, as opposed to the type of movies that they actually want to see. And that's where one of my big problems with lottery funding, but it's one of my big problems with the industry generally. I used to wander around Blockbusters when it was still open and see like shelf after shelf of movies that have just come out, that have been reviewed by the Sun or whoever as the next, the best thing since sliced bread. I've never even heard of it. Because the way the industry seems to be structured is to patronise the audience to a certain extent, and that's why we'll never be in America, because America knows it's all about bums on seats. In the UK, the industry as it was, and it's changing, thank God, is just this clique. How can we prop up, our mates and keep them in houses in Notting Hill and Islington and the like? All horrifically wrong.
Okay, are there any films that you wish you could have written yourself?
Hundreds, but I'll give you three. I thought about this when you told me. The Hangover is, to my mind, I'm a big fan of that sort of comedy, but all of them, dating back to Porky's, all of them have had moments which have been slow. Even American Pie, and even Road Trip, which is one of my favourites, still one of my favourites, great film. But The Hangover hasn't got a single second of downtime. The script is so bang on the money, just joke. And it was so brilliantly cast, and casting is everything in a movie. And it just works. I can sit and watch that movie over and over again, and every time I find something funny in it, every single time. Love it. The Fight Club, which is the only movie I've ever watched back to back, because once you know the ending and then you watch it again, it's a completely different movie. And it's the most amazing script. Again, brilliantly cast. The casting is just spot on, and what a movie it is. And the last one is The Shawshank Redemption, because it's The Shawshank Redemption. And it's odd that Fight Club and The Shawshank Redemption, neither of them did big business at the box office. They went on slow burns. And I'd always said, funny, on the subject of the Fight Club, I'd always said when we were doing Green Street, we should push, that's what we should be going after, a British Fight Club. And one of the problems I had on Green Street, and there were a lot of problems, and there's a book in itself there, was that they didn't want to do that. They wouldn't go after that. And it's one of the reasons it didn't work in America. They wanted to do almost like a buddy-buddy movie. But it was interesting on Green Street that we had all of the producers were women, and we had a female director as well. There was no blokes there making a decision, and they were all American. There was no English people or English bloke to make the decision, actually that's what we want to do. And that was one of my big problems.
Okay. Which people do you admire in the industry?
Anyone who pays me. I have the utmost admiration for them. They can have my children if they want. I think the thing about the movie game, in my experience of it, and I do, to be brutally honest, I do treat films as a bit of a not a sideline, but a joke, because I can't believe I'm doing it. So it's kind of, I take my work very seriously, but everything else is niff-naff. I mean, you wander around Dean Street and, God. And it's like, the whole industry is full of people who somehow make a living not doing anything.
Yeah.
They say they're producers, and I've met loads of them. They say they're producers, but they never produce anything. They say they're writers, but they've never written anything. I mean, I know writers, who are regarded as more famous than me, who have never actually made a movie. And, I wrote Green Street, which was a big deal, but at least I've actually got a movie to my name. Yeah, I'm still kind of, you're not proper right now. I never get invited, I never get asked to do anything. I'm not like I want to. But it is odd that somehow the industry is full of people like that. Bizarre. I mean, we could walk out down here now and find 100 of them.
Yeah.
Because they're all sitting drinking coffee instead of actually doing anything. And someone's paying them. That's what amazes me.
Weird.
The lottery's paying them, I tell you. When you meet someone like Jonathan Softcott, who is like doing it, the guy is 24/7 producing stuff. And he's always looking for the next one, and he's like however many years ahead, and he's getting there, and he's dragging people like me with it. How can you not admire guys like that?
Yeah, he's a real deal, isn't he?
He is the real deal, and people look at him and say, oh, he does a certain type of movie. So what? He's making movies, he's making money, he's employing people, and he's boosting the industry. Week in, week out, and people are really starting to take notice of him, and as they should. And I consider myself very, very lucky to be working with him at the moment, because he's teaching me an awful lot. I've got a lot of faith in the bloke.
Okay, the movie industry's changed in the last 10 years in terms of budget. How has that affected you as a screenwriter?
Hasn't at all.
Okay.
Because I never set out to be a screenwriter.
Right.
So everything's new. If anything, it's actually made my life easier, because it's being low budget. It's actually made more opportunities for me, and long may it, continue.
Okay. How do you think the film industry will be in the next 5 to 10 years, and what are you doing now to still be competitive by then?
I think here in the UK, we're already seeing evidence that the market for straight to DVD movies is growing, and I think that's going to continue, and that's going to be driven, in spite of the fact that Blockbusters is no more and HMV is a shadow of its former self. I think the supermarkets are going to take more power. If you can't get a movie into a supermarket, there's no point making it, as far as I can see. Where we're going, I think the only way that the industry generally is going to survive is if they sort out the issue of lottery funding. Because all it's doing at the moment is propping up a clique of people who aren't actually producing anything that's commercially viable, really. It's keeping a lot of people in work. But surely the whole concept was designed to make movies which make money. And, the evidence doesn't seem to support that in the main it does that. My experience of it is, was poor, to say the least. As a writer, I think all I can do is listen to what people are telling me. I'm lucky in the fact I've got a lot of books on my backlist. I have people contact me every day, saying about stuff. I read all the reviews on Amazon's of all my books, so I know what they want. I know what they want of me, and all I can do is carry on giving them what they want. I think that's all anyone should be doing, really. And I think. Because I don't know how to do anything else. There's loads of stuff I'd like to do. There's ideas for movies which are kind of out there, if you like. But as it stands at the moment, I know they're never going to get made, because no one's going to put the money into it. And so why spend time doing that? Why spend time writing, 3 months writing a script for a movie, which is a gamble, when I know I can spend 3 months writing a book, which I know is going to make me money. And that's a very mercenary and cynical way of looking at it, but I need to eat. I've got motorbikes to buy. I want to retire, and I want to retire soon. And so I have to, I don't really see the point in gambling. I've gambled with books before. I bought out books that were gambles, and that haven't necessarily worked because it's got my name on the cover.
Right.
And so if my name's on the cover, people expect a certain type of book. Well, that's what I'll give. If that's what they want, that's what I'll give them. I haven't got a problem with that. And the movies are the same. You know, if the future takes me off in, you know, allows me to go in a different direction, then maybe that's what I'll do. But at the moment, I'm full up. You know, I've got 2 years work ahead of me if I want it, longer.
Yeah.
I've got, you know, the third book in the Crew Top Dog trilogy to do, sequel to Billy's Log to do, possibly a sequel to Wings of a Sparrow to do, and that's just books, you know. So I'm in a very fortunate position, and I'm very lucky to be in that position. But I don't need to gamble. I mean, if someone come knocking on my door and say, you know, we want you, here's £6 million worth of budget to make a movie, then yeah, of course you'd be stupid not to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not counting on it because as I said before, I really genuinely don't know how I'm getting away with this. So I'm not going to risk everything on running down an avenue which may well be very blind.
Oh, good. Honest answer. How has social media affected things for you?
Oh, apart from eating up all my time. The thing about movies, well, no, let's change that. The thing about books, and to an extent about movies, the most important person in the whole process is the person who buys your book, or buys the DVD, or sits in the cinema. Because without them, you've got nothing. And people tend to forget that. You know, you talk to publishing, oh yeah, we're going to do this. We spent X amount on this, and then we're going to punt it out and hope people read it. That's basically how publishing works, and that's basically why publishing is in the mess it's in now. Social media allows me to speak directly to people who've bought my book, and people who buy my books are not necessarily your traditional book buying public. So you know, they're football lads, or they're just blokes who are, you know, have got a flight somewhere or whatever. But it works for me. And now, thanks to social media, I can contact them and speak to them directly. I can run ideas by them. But the most important thing is I know what they want. You know, until I got onto Twitter in a big way, I didn't know that people really wanted the sequel to Top Dog or the sequel to Billy's Log. Well, I do now, you know. And so, if that's what they want, that's what I'll give them. You know, give them what they want, not what you think they might like. That's the bottom line.
Great.
And so, and vice versa, of course. You know, I get people ring me up and tweet me or email me and say you're a dick or whatever, your books are crap, and that's fine. If that's what they want to do, fine. You know, but like I say, I even like my trolls. They're good fun. I love it. It's changed. I mean, and in many respects, it's saved my career. I mean, my career as an author was finished until ebooks kicked in, and they only kicked in because social media was kind of buzzing about the whole thing. And in fact, the guys who published my ebooks first really got in touch with me via Twitter, and it saved my career. I certainly wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for social media, so I'll never be critical of it.
Yeah.
But I genuinely believe, and coming on the back of all what's gone on recently, it is Twitter in particular is the ultimate manifestation of free speech. And you might not like some of the things go on, but you as a user have the ultimate sanction. You can either ignore what people are saying to you, you can block whoever's saying it, or you can just cancel your account. Because no one makes you go on Twitter, no one forces you to stop on Facebook. And they all say, oh, Twitter should be taking control, Facebook should be taking control. What about personal control?
Yeah.
You know, you've got a switch, you've got a plug, you've got a delete button, use them. If you've got a problem, use them. You know, the world will not stop if you stop using Facebook or Twitter. And so, you know, it's a bit of personal responsibility, please.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, look, it's time for another song, Dougie. So what's the next one?
Right, now I'm not a Beatles fan by any stretch of the imagination. I'm firmly in the most overrated band of all time category. But Twist and Shout by the Beatles is the next tune from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And the reason, there's a very specific reason, Ferris Bueller is one of the great all-time movies, but I'm also a massive fan of pieces to camera, actors speaking to camera. And I first really got into that watching Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
And it works perfectly, but it's such a great move. And the scene where they're on the parade and he's singing Twist and Shout, it just encapsulates everything about that whole era and about that whole movie, and that's why I picked that.
I love that film too.
Well, shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby, now. Come on, baby. Come on and work it on out. Work it on out. Well, work it on out. Work it on out. You know you look so good. Look so good. You know you got me going now. Got me going. Just like I knew you would. Like I knew you would. Well, shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby, now. Come on, baby. Come on and work it on out. Work it on out. You know you twisted little girl. Twist little girl. You know you twist so fine. Twist so fine. Come on and twist a little closer now. Twist a little closer. Let me know that you're mine. Let me know you're mine. Baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby, now. Come on, baby. Come on and work it on out. Work it on out. You know you twisted little girl. Twisted little girl. You know you twist so fine. Twist so fine. Come on and twist a little closer now. Twist a little closer. Let me know that you're mine. Know you're mine. Well, take it, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Well, take it, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Well, take it, baby, now. Shake it up, baby.
Welcome back, everyone. That was Twist and Shout by the Beatles from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the iconic scene in the parade, and we're breaking legs with author and screenwriter Dougie Brimson. So, Dougie, who is your favourite actor, actress, or director?
I don't have favourites so much as people I like to work with. Because when I watch a movie, as far as I'm concerned, if it gets to the point where I'm watching the actor and not the movie, then the movie's not very good. One of my dreams, I do love working with Leo. Leo's fantastic to work with, so I've got to give him a plug in. I would love to work with Helen Mirren because she is the most amazing actress, and I also think she'd be a giggle to work with.
Yeah.
In terms of directors, I'd really like to work with John Baird again. He was fabulous to work with on It's a Casual Life. He just don't feel it should be good, but I think he kind of gets the type of movie that I would want to make. There's another director I'd really like to work with, a guy called Robert Heath, who did a couple of low budget movies, one called Out on a Limb, which is a comedy, British comedy, and a couple of years ago I did a movie called Sus, which was about Stop and Search, which was brilliant, an absolutely brilliant movie which never really got the recognition it deserved. But he's a great director and he's a big fan of Billy's Log, so we've been talking for years about doing something like that. But in terms of big names, I don't know. I never really noticed the directors, which is probably a good thing.
Okay.
I've probably cost myself a fortune in work now.
Well, what kind of films do you like?
I love comedies primarily. and old British movies. I watch anything except slasher movies and horror. I cannot watch a horror movie because I'm just rubbish. I watched Sixth Sense in daylight with the curtains open. That's how bad I am. I just don't get them. I don't get slasher movies, don't get horror movies. But I like comedies, and I like old British comedies in particular.
Just so you know, that kid in Sixth Sense is 25 now.
Yeah, I know.
Weird, isn't it?
Great movie though.
Yeah, really good movie. What is your favourite film and TV programme?
My favourite movie of all time is easy. The Cruel Sea. The old Jack Hawkins movie.
Oh, right, okay.
Absolutely astonishing. If it comes on, I will stop everything and watch it. Unfortunately, Channel 4 are repeating it quite a lot lately. So I've seen it about 6 times in the last couple of months. My favourite TV programme of the moment is a series on E4 called The Good Wife with Juliana Margulies, sorry.
Yeah,
amazing,
she's
absolutely amazing series. I think it's on about fourth series at the moment. Brilliantly cast, brilliantly written, just astonishing TV. Love it. I love American. I'm not big on American TV crime dramas. I don't watch CSI and all that sort of nonsense. But The Good Wife is fantastic. I like Nashville as well. It's been on lately. That's been pretty good. And the other series I'm obsessed with at the moment is Once Upon a Time.
All right.
Oh my lord!
I watched it.
It is like, you know, Lost with fairy tales. It's just, but you could never ever watch an episode and pick it up if you haven't watched it from the beginning. It's just a brilliant, absolutely brilliant concept. So I'm kind of obsessed with that.
Okay. If you haven't been born in this century, when and where would you like to have lived?
1950s America. Easy. Cars, music, everything about it. Yeah, I mean, American Graffiti is one of my favourite all-time films. But I'm big on America. I'm big on Americana, and it's just an era which kind of, I don't know. It's all about hope, and I know we get a false sense of it in the movies and stuff, but it just looks like it was awesome. And for me, if you could choose any time, that's that. I have got an odd thing as well. I know this sounds weird, and I don't want it to come across wrong. But I really would have liked to have been born or existed in probably 1938 Germany.
Right.
And the Nazi Party were coming to, not because I'm a Nazi or anything like that, but just for that kind of, the atmosphere in that country must have been astonishing. Weird, but astonishing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And just to see what that was like. I mean, the Nuremberg rallies you see in there. I mean, you see this same sort of thing in North Korea, but the Nuremberg rallies and that, was, you know, being ex-military, fascinates me. What it must have been like to be in that kind of environment. It must have been astonishing. And you can see how he did what how he did what he did. And I'm a big World War II buff anyway, but astonishing period of history.
Definitely. Okay, we've got time for one more song then, Dougie. So what's your last song?
Move On Up, Curtis Mayfield.
Lovely.
From Bend It Like Beckham. And the reason I picked that is because Bend It Like Beckham is an awful film. Really awful film. There's nothing good about it at all. But it does highlight the fact that we need more football movies in this country. The time is right for another football movie. I mean, we've had Fever Pitch, Bend It Like Beckham, Looking for Eric, which is probably the best one, I think. You know, Harry Bassett or whatever is, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I think the time is right. And just so happens, I've got a script ready for a football movie based on Wings of a Sparrow.
Oh, right.
So that's why I picked that. Just so I could mention Wings of a Sparrow.
Nicely done.
Just move on up toward your destination. Though you may find from time to time complications, bite your lip and take the trip. Though there may be wet road ahead and you cannot slip, just move on up. For peace you'll find into the steeple of beautiful people where there's only one kind. So hush not, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by. Move on up and keep on wishing. Remember your dream is your only scheme, so keep on pushing. Take nothing less than the supreme best. Do not obey rumors people say, but you can pass the test. Just move on up to a greater day. With just a little faith, if you put your mind to it, you can surely do it. Move on up. Move on up. We move on up. Watch out, we just move on up. We move on up. Move on up.
Okay, welcome back everyone. That was Curtis Mayfield, Move On Up, from the film Bend It Like Beckham. We're near the end of the show now. We've been breaking legs with author and screenwriter Dougie Brimson. So Dougie, on Breaking Legs, we like a funny story. So can you tell us any funny stories from your time as a screenwriter or author?
I mean, like I say, I came. There's lots of weird things that happened to me over the years, and I come to the industry from outside, so I never wanted to be in it. It just kind of happened, and because I don't look like a typical writer, and I write about a subject which is kind of outside the mainstream. I write lad lit, if you like, which has never been acknowledged as a proper thing, which I don't really care about. I tend to get patronised a lot if I'm in any kind of social gathering involving writers or publishers or film people. And the usual thing I get asked is, oh, so you're a writer, have you written anything I might have read? Which is like a real demeaning statement. And I learned how to handle people like that from watching Alistair Sim in School for Scoundrels. And so I just basically turn it round on them and rip them to shreds. Because A, they're being rude.
Yeah.
And B, if they're going to speak to me like that, then they're going to get exactly what I tend to give them. I mean, that's amusing to me. It's not amusing to anybody else because, like I say, I don't really mix in them circles. The one time I went to Cannes, and the only time I ever went to Cannes, I was at a party and there was a guy there, a film executive, who was being extremely rude to a young lady. And I went up to him, and I don't drink, so and he was drinking a lot. And I went up to him and I said, "You need to cut it out, mate." And he turned around to me and said, "Do you know who I am?" So I said no, and I punched him full in the face, and he fell back into a swimming pool. And there's like, literally, it was a scene from Jaws, and there's just like water oozing out of him. And I found that quite funny, as I was getting asked to leave, escorted off the premises. The only, there's just weird things happen to me all the time. I was in LA once, and I was years ago when we were doing Green Street, and I'm sat on a curb on my bag outside a cheap hotel wearing a Watford shirt because I'm a Watford fan, and this couple were walking past and they stopped and looked at me, and this woman said to me, "You're Sir Anthony Hopkins." And I'm like, "Really? No, I'm not." And they said, "Oh yeah, but you're British." I said, "Yeah, but he's Welsh and I'm English." "No, you are Anthony Hopkins." And I'm like, I'm sitting on a curb, in a Watfordshire, outside a crap hotel, not even in, on the outskirts of Hollywood, because they wouldn't pay for me to stay in the middle. And you think I'm Sir Anthony Hopkins, and they would not have it. And in the end, I had to sign an autograph for him. And I just wrote in block letters, "Sir Anthony Hopkins." That's just bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. What's in the pipeline for you at the moment, Dougie?
Top Dog is taking up all my time. Oh no, actually that's a lie. It's not taking up any time because my bit's pretty much done for now. I'm working on a new movie, which is really exciting. That's taking up like all of my time at the moment. And I'm also, after I finish that, we're doing something really revolutionary. I think it is the right word. It's certainly never been done before in terms of self-publishing. But such is the nature of self-publishing, I ain't going to tell you what that is.
Fair enough.
Only about 4 or 5 people know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's going to be really exciting. Yeah. And the rest of the time is spent watching Watford. Really.
Okay. They won the weekend, didn't they?
I did. Yeah. Very exciting.
Okay. Where can we find you, Dougie? Twitter, Facebook. Promote yourself.
I'm everywhere. My website is www.dougiebrimson.com. Twitter is @Dougie Brimson. Facebook, just search Dougie Brimson and I'll pop up. Like I say, if you want to drop me a line. It's always me. I do not have a room full of secretaries or trained monkeys. Just don't expect me to read anything that you're going to send me in terms of product, not your emails. But yeah, drop me a line. Love to hear from people.
Brilliant. Dougie, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great interview, really insightful. Really appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule. So thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you.
And remember, if you want to get involved in Breaking Legs, you can email me at scott@allmediaradio.com or tweet me @ScottSamain, SCOTTSAMAIN, and hashtag it Breaking Legs. You can get involved, you can choose a nostalgia, or if you're in the industry in some way, in any way, and you want to get on the show, just give me a shout. It's scott@allmediaradio.com and on Twitter @ScottSamain.
Hi everyone, I'm Neil Large. You're listening to Breaking Legs with Scott Samain on All Media Radio.
Welcome back everybody, and unfortunately that's the end of the show now. I just want to say a big thank you to Dougie Brimson. I really enjoyed doing that interview, and he really is such an interesting guy, and I hope you enjoyed that interview. It's very insightful. And I want to say the biggest thank you of all to all you listeners, everyone who's listening all around the world. We're being listened to in 33 countries, from countries as diverse as Taiwan, Peru, Brazil, Australia. It's just the countries that are listening is unbelievable. Any of you listening out there, please tweet, get in touch. I really want to hear from you. So thanks very much, and I'll see you on the next show.